The Wandering Blade. Comma. Chapter 1. For Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 15th was usually a good day, for it was on the 15th of every month that he would visit his surrogate grandson Naruto. It was on days like this when he would leave his office and take a stroll through the village, talking with anyone he wanted. It was a brief reprieve from the hell of paperwork, but it was today that Hiruzen Sarutobi was not smiling. Report. We thoroughly checked the house, and there was no sign of a break-in. We found footprints above his size though. I want an Anbu team on all corners of the Land of Fire. Do not let the person who did this escape. Yes, Lord Hawkeye. Unfortunately for Hiruzen, it was already too late. Sighing, Hiruzen felt many emotions. He felt sadness, confusion, and loss, but most of all, he felt anger. Anger that the ninja of the leaf, his own shinobi, had done it. He didn't know how the people of this village could not separate the scroll from the kune sealed in it. He couldn't understand how the people of this village could not see the boy for the hero he was. He could not. No, he could. He could understand why the people hated him. He understood because all they saw was the fox. On that dreadful night, all anyone could see was the fox raining havoc. They did not see what Hiruzen saw. They didn't see the sacrifice his parents made for the village. Hiruzen wished, so desperately, that he could share his memories with the village, so that some of them might not treat him like scum. Unfortunately, he could not. He could not share his memories. He could not reverse the Nine Tails attack. He could not reverse the deaths of Minato and Kushina along with so many others. He could not stop the villagers' hatred. But most of all, he could not reverse the kidnapping of Naruto, and it was on that moment, for the first time in 7 years, that Hiruzen Sarutobi, the god of shinobi, felt utterly powerless. Comma. Pain. The first thing that Naruto felt was pain, mainly in his chest and head, and Naruto remembered he was knocked out, but he didn't know why his legs hurt. Oh wait, he did. It was from the running away he had been doing. He was running away from a ninja. In truth, Naruto hadn't expected it. He had honestly thought that Mizuki was actually going to bring him ramen, so he didn't lock his door. Looking back, that was a pretty stupid decision. It was a problem Naruto had. The people in the village didn't like him for some reason, so whenever someone showed him kindness, he would latch onto them without thinking. It was a problem that could only be solved with a healthy environment. And for Naruto, the leaf was not a healthy environment. Sure, there were some people he cherished there, but they alone were not enough. Sighing to himself, Naruto tried to adjust himself to a more comfortable position while not alerting his captor. I mean, really, the bag he was being transported was not the best place to take a nap. Suddenly, Naruto's captor came to a complete stop and Naruto was dropped to the ground roughly. When Naruto crawled out of the bag, he saw two people. He saw Mizuki, a man dressed in strange-looking armor with a sword on his waist. The armor Naruto thought looked pretty normal. Naruto had just never seen it before, but the sword was beautiful. Naruto couldn't even see the blade, but he could tell it was beautiful, from what he could see. The sheath was a deep lavender with dark blue vines edged across it, and the hilt being a dark blue color. Naruto was completely awestruck by the sword when Mizuki began to speak. Okay, I took it from the leaf and got it all the way to the border. Now where is my payment? Naruto did not fail to notice that Mizuki said it, not him. Your payment has already been given. When you return to the leaf, you will find that a large sum has been added to your funds. Mizuki smirked. Well, I guess that settles it. I'll be taking my leave now. And with one last distasteful glance at Naruto, Mizuki started walking away. But there's a bit of a downside in all of this, Mizuki. The armored man said. Turning around, Mizuki asked. And what would that be? Oh, nothing too bad. It's just that you won't get to spend the money you earned. What, and why wouldn't I be able to? Mizuki asked with a wary tone. Oh, I thought you'd have realized by now, but I'll spell it out for you. You're not making it back to the leaf alive. Mizuki's eyes widened, and in flash his head was cut off of his shoulders. Naruto didn't even see the armored man move. 1 second he was there and the other second he's right by Mizuki, or Mizuki's body, Naruto supposed. The armored man looked at Naruto, and Naruto did the same. You are Naruto Uzumaki. The man said it as more of a statement than a question, but Naruto nodded his head all the same. You look to be in good condition. My contact will be pleased. The man said while looking him up and down. Yes, I'll knock him out, then go to the meetup location. Naruto was knocked out before he could fully process what the man said, and was promptly slung over the man's shoulder, and without another word the man dashed off, but not before making sure that he could not be associated with the death of Mizuki. Naruto opened his eyes, and he was met with a sterile white room, and a weird odor. It was the kind of smell like when you walked into a room that had been cleaned to an overly unnecessary degree, the kind of smell that would burn your nose hairs. Looking around, Naruto met with the sight of a man in a stylish black suit with white hair, almost the same color of the room, and piercing moss green eyes and an unnerving smile, a smile that looked plastered on, like it didn't belong on his face. Deciding he didn't know how to feel about the man, Naruto turned his head to the third person. It was the samurai. Naruto remembered that was what they were called, that had knocked him out. Frowning a little, Naruto asked, "Where am I?" Naruto asked warily. Smiling creepily, the green-eyed man began to speak. "You are in Hakamo, one of the 3 key cities of TGE Land of Iron." Naruto blinked. He knew about all the lands of the shinobi nations but nothing about the places, and the Meisho sensei had made him go outside the class while he taught, and it was only thanks to copying Shikamaru's homework that the blonde knew any of the lands other than fire. "Who are you?" "I am Senji Armako, and you may wonder why you have been brought here." The man now known as Senji said, nodding his head. Naruto remembered what happened before he was knocked out. He remembered Mizuki's head rolling, surprise still edged on his face. Forcing the memory out of his mind, Naruto nodded his head. "Well, as you may or may not know, the leader and representative of the Land of Iron, the samurai Mifune, went missing in an alleged trade agreement with the Land of Hot Water and Rice about 4 months ago. And since a prolonged period of time has passed with no contact, we had no choice but to presume him dead. As such, since Mifune had no heir-chosen successor, various people in the Land of Iron have thrown their hat in the ring for Mifune's title. I in fact, am one of them, and I am no fool. The race for his position will not be settled diplomatically. Soon a civil war will break out and I need you to help me win." "Wait, what? Why would you need me?" "Well, it's obviously anyone would want a Jinchuriki as their pawn, especially one as powerful as the Ninetales." "Jinchuriki, what does that mean?" "It means human sacrifice." "Human sacrifice?" Naruto whispered. "Wait, how am I a sacrifice? I don't remember ever being sacrificed." The 7-year-old said in his apparent confusion. "How many years ago was the Kyuubi killed by your Hokage?" I think about 7 years ago." "And how old were you when the Kyuubi was killed?" I was a baby. I think I had just been born." The blonde said with a contemplative look on his face. Well, did you know that tailed beasts can't be killed?" The blonde's eyes snapped toward Senji. His mouth had started to open, but Senji cut him off before he could speak. "Did you also know that tailed beasts can be sealed? Not only that, but they can only be sealed in children, specifically infants, so their still developing chakra coils could adapt to the tailed beast's chakra." Naruto stared at Senji, apparently still not getting what the man was saying, so Senji decided to put the final nail in the coffin. "Sigh, still though it's such a shame." "What is?" "Oh, you didn't know, Jinchuriki are not looked upon favorably in most villages. The people's fear and hatred for the tailed beasts colors their opinion of the container of them, and as such they are usually ostracized by their village." "Say, Naruto, do you know anyone like that?" Naruto thought, and he came up with only one person who had been ostracized. It was some pretty purple-haired girl Naruto had seen, eating at a dango shop he saw frequently as it was on the way to Ichirakus. He saw how the people in the shop whispered to themselves, always staying at least 2 tables away from her. There was only one problem: the girl was much too old to be a Jinchuriki. If what Senji said was right, then the girl, who was at least 7 years older than him, could not be a Jinchuriki, but that leaves a problem. If it wasn't the purple-haired girl, then who was it? Naruto didn't know any other people who were shunned by the village except for himself. Senji could almost see the wheels turning in Naruto's brain, and by the widening of the 7-year-old's eyes, Senji knew that Naruto had finally figured it out. A smile was creeping onto Senji's face. Now that he had that figured out, they could finally get to the details of what the boy was going to be doing, only to be halted when the boy started sobbing, apparently the realization of why he was hated so much and his apparent remembrances of what he had gone through in his village had finally unleashed tears that had been waiting to come out for years. Senji was not smiling anymore. If Naruto was paying attention to his face, it would have looked annoyed, like he couldn't be bothered to console the boy, and it only grew worse when Naruto started sobbing. Growing tired of the boy's crying, Senji blitzed across the table, pining Naruto to the wall and putting hand over his mouth. "Listen to me, and listen well, boy, cause I will only say this once. Crying will get you nothing here. It might be hard to believe, but there are people in this land whose lives have been even worse than yours. And what do you think they did? Did they cry? No, they couldn't afford to waste time on crying, instead they got off their ass and started working. Do you know why they did that? Naruto shook his head. They did it because they realized something. Do you know what that is? Naruto shook his head again. Well, I'll tell you, they realized that the world wasn't going to change for them, and that they had to change it themselves. Senji said, dropping a no longer crying Naruto onto the couch he had woke up on. The way I see it, you have a choice. You can either wallow in your pity party. Senji smiled. Or you can work for me, and when I win the war I can give you anything you want. So what's it gonna be? Naruto Uzumaki. Senji and Naruto stared into each other's eyes, both trying to figure out each other. When taking a deep breath, the blonde spoke. Fine, I'll fight in this civil war or whatever on one condition. Oh, and what might that be? I want you to make me strong. Senji smiled. That I can do. Senji looked over to the samurai who up until this point had been silent. Araki, I will leave him in your hands. I expect him to be up to standard in a year. You got that? The man now known as Araki nodded. Yes, I will make sure of it, sir. Good. Senji said. With one last look at Naruto he went out the door, and for some reason the overly sterile stench in the room seemed to lessen when he left. Naruto looked at Araki, in a bit of discomfort from his recent crying, and asked a question. So what now? Araki looked at Naruto, and began to take something out of a seal on his arm. For some reason Naruto knew it was a seal, but he didn't know why. The thing Araki pulled out of the seal was a sword. It looked like a standard sword, nothing special, but it would get the job done in a fight. Tossing it to Naruto, Araki spoke to Naruto. Come with me. Okay. Naruto followed Araki out of the room, a bit happy that he didn't have to smell that stench anymore. When Naruto left the room he was surprised at the sudden change. He didn't know what he was expecting when he left, but it wasn't what he saw. What he saw was a casino, chips being taken from the unlucky losers in whatever game they were playing, none drinking beyond their limit, and women who had clothing leaving almost nothing to the imagination, but would still bash any man over the head with a bottle if they tried to cop a feel. Blaring lights and loud noises filled the room. It seemed the room was split between a bar and casino, with the loud noises mainly coming from the bar. Araki led Naruto to what looked to be TGE exit. Two men in suits who looked to be bodyguards stood by the exit. When Naruto and Araki walked out, and Naruto was surprised to find that it was snowing. Seeing his surprised face, Araki decided to speak. The land of Iron's climate is different than the land of fire, and if you go into the other nations you will find that even though it may be snowing in one place, it is the middle of summer in the country right next to it. Now come. I need to assess your skill set and create a training plan around it, but first, do you know any jutsu? Well, know about the Kairimi, Henge, and Bunshin, but I can only use the Henge. I see. Well, when we get to the training grounds. Okay. It didn't take long to get to the training grounds, no more than 5 minutes. Well, let's see your Henge. Right. Henge no Jutsu. Naruto transformed into a perfect copy of Araki, and this would have been normal, but Araki noticed something about it. Over his 27 years of life Araki had seen many Henges, but Naruto was different. Quietly Araki expelled chakra from his body, a standard method of dispelling a genjutsu, but nothing happened. That's when Araki realized it wasn't an illusion, and that Naruto was a full-blown no-bullshit shapeshifter. Grabbing Naruto's shoulders, Araki made Naruto look at him. Naruto, do you know what you just did? A Henge, right? That's not just regular Henge, that was a full transformation. But that's the same thing. No, it's not. A Henge is just a genjutsu, but you actually transformed. That takes at least Jonin level chakra Risuro. What? Naruto watched Araki go into thought for only a few seconds before looking at him again. Okay, well, your Henge will be duly noted, but let's get a feel for your Taijutsu. And while Bukijutsu isn't commonly used in the land of Iron, I suppose we should test you on that. Which would you like to do first? Bukjutsu. Naruto said almost instantly. He didn't want to admit it, but his Taijutsu, though it was his most proficient art, was almost laughable. He had never beaten any of the kids in his village who were in clans. At least when he failed at Bukijutsu, that took a bit more skill, making it less laughable to see. Handing Naruto some shuriken he pulled out of the seal. 10 in total. Naruto was told to throw shuriken from 15 meters away. Naruto threw the shuriken, and needless to say it was bad. He got 3/10 and none were bullseye. Well, just something you'll have to fix. Araki exclaimed flatly. Naruto's checked heated, and in order to leave the subject of his Bukijutsu he walked into the middle of the training ground. Araki followed. Well, I suppose we should get to Taijutsu. Araki said, making a motion for Naruto to come forward. Leaping forward, Naruto tried a spin kick but was swiftly blocked by Araki. Dropping to the ground, Naruto went to sweep his legs, but Araki jumped over it. Getting back on his feet, Naruto went for a barrage of punches. None connecting, Naruto went for a high kick. Araki dogging, getting a hold of his leg. Araki slammed Naruto on the ground, knocking the wind out of Naruto. That is enough. I see that this will require a lot of work. Gathering his bearings, Naruto got to his feet when Araki asked, "Tell me, Naruto, did you not listen to any taijutsu lessons in the academy?" Huff huff, the teachers made me sit out every time we went for taijutsu lessons, and when I asked for help the only one who would give it to me was Mizuki. But the style that he taught me was worse than the style I improvised, so I just decided to use my improvised style. I see. Well, we have one more thing to do today and I think you might like it. Looking up, Naruto quickly ran after Araki, who was already walking away. Wait, what are we going to do? Naruto said while they were walking towards a rather worn-down shop that had looked like it had seen too many winters. Going behind the stand, Araki pulled out a dusty, but well-made box with a rusty but sturdy lock. Araki pulled a key from the seal on his arm. Naruto didn't know how much he actually had in that seal. Araki unlocked the box, and Naruto tried to see what was inside, but his height would not allow that. Araki pulled out a normal if slightly tanned piece of paper. What is this? Naruto said, taking the paper from Araki. I will tell you in a moment, just channel chakra into it. Following the samurai's instructions, Naruto channeled chakra into the paper and was surprised at what happened. The paper split in half, with one side crumpling and the other side burning. What was that? A surprised Naruto asked an even more surprised Araki. That was chakra paper. It is designed to react in a certain way when chakra was channeled into it. Okay, but why did the paper do that? Its purpose is to tell you your chakra nature. If it's fire, the paper will burn. If it's water, the paper will become damp. If it's wind, the paper will split in half. If it's earth, the paper will turn into dirt. And if it's wind, the paper will crumble up. Okay, so my paper burned, split in half, and crumpled. That means I have a wind, fire, and lightning affinity, right? That is correct. Araki informed the blonde, leaving out the fact that it was quite uncommon for anyone to have 3 chakra natures, especially natures as strong as they are. That will be all for today. Come now, I will lead you to the place you will be staying. Naruto and Araki left, with Naruto picking up the sword he placed on the ground he'd put on the ground when he was displaying his Bukijutsu and Taijutsu, and went to his new home. The apartment was, for all intensive purposes, normal, though it was 10 times better than his apartment. Araki told him some basic things about the house, but quickly left, saying that he had to make a training plan around his skills, and Naruto, having gone through a very rough day, quickly found his bed, and went to sleep. It's time to get up. Those were the first words Naruto heard before his collar was grabbed and Jet was thrown out of his bed. Opening his eyes, Naruto could see that it was still dark out. Shaking J's head, Naruto was blinded by the sudden light in the room. Standing in front of him was Araki. It is time to train. Oh god, what time is it? Naruto said groggily. It is approximately 4:30, Araki said. Naruto swore there was a bit of mirth in his voice. Are you gonna make me wake up this early every day? Unless you receive a punishment, this will be Thai standard time you will be awoken. Sighing to himself, Naruto got up. So what do we do now? Naruto asked. As soon as the question was heard, Araki handed Naruto a clipboard with a checklist, and Naruto started reading. 4:30 4:40, wake up, shower. 4:40 4:55, breakfast. 5 o'clock 8 o'clock, Taijutsu Kinjutsu Bukijutsu training. 8 o'clock 8:10, shower. 8:10 9 o'clock, shopping. 9 o'clock 12 o'clock, basic lessons. 12 o'clock 12:15, lunch. 12:15 1 o'clock, rest. 1 o'clock 5 o'clock, ninjutsu funjutsu training. 5 o'clock 5:10, shower. 5:10 5:25, dinner. 5:25, 6 o'clock, rest. 6 o'clock 8 o'clock, advanced lessons. 8 o'clock 4:30, sleep. Naruto looked up from the checklist. Shopping. Naruto asked. It won't be a regular occurrence, it will only be added when needed, and I have already decided that the time will be going to your basic lessons. Well, what's the difference between basic and advanced lessons? Basic lessons are the things you would have been taught at the Shinobi Academy, and advanced lessons will be about the materials needed for you to be a part of this war. Like what? I do not know, I am but a soldier in this war. That's fine I guess, so I got to take a shower right? Yes you have 10 minutes. Right. Comma. Reishi looked over the destroyed caravan. All the inhabitants except her were dead. His hair though silver looked an ashy white due to the fog of snow. Reishi had to channel chakra to his eyes just to see. Walking over to the caravan he quickly helped Koyuki up from the wreckage that motherless Badar. Or more specifically his men had found them. He cursed under his breath. The one time they had to go through the land of snow this happened. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Seeing that Koyuki was unconscious he looked for a cave they could hide in until the snow lessened. Here the snow never truly stopped. Seeing a rock formation not too far away, Reishi picked Koyuki up in his arms and hurried over. The rocks were no cave, and it would be impossible hard to start a fire, but it was how they were formed that surprised Reishi. Two rocks were standing up slated diagonally like a triangle but they weren't touching. A mostly flat rock was on the top forming a roof around them, not to mention that a rock had been leaning against the back entrance of the formation. It was almost like someone had made it themselves to shield the person, or people from the snow. Reishi's theory was correct when he heard a snapping sound under his feet. Looking down he saw the scattered pieces of bone all across the formation. Muttering a quiet prayer for the unfortunate souls, Reishi set Koyuki at the back of the formation. Turning around, Reishi weaved hand signs at a fast pace for a 7-year-old. Fire style, fireball justu. He muttered, a stream of fire coming out of his mouth only seconds after melting all the snow in the cave. Reishi took a scroll out of the pack on his back, and unrolled it. Channeling chakra into it and thinking about what he wanted, the scroll released a puff of smoke and when it disappeared, in its place were 4 logs of wood, and a dozen stones. Setting the stones in a circle he went to put the wood into place. The silver-haired boy used a small fireball jutsu, immediately feeling the comforting warmth. Sighing to himself, Reishi finally let himself relax, and the snow while deadly was admittedly pleasant to the ears, letting Reishi relax and think about the previous day's events. Flashback. There's no other way, the other routes are too dangerous to go through, the land of snow is the only way through. Sandayu said grimly. You know why we can't do that Sandayu, it doesn't matter how careful we are, will find us. Reishi said next to a silent Koyuki. He didn't want to go through the land of snow, no one did, but the group had recently found out that Koyuki's grandmother, Kazui, had survived the purge of Koyuki's family and Koyuki had been silent ever since she heard the news. Right now they were in the land of lightning or a port city called Maribreeze. Because of the pirates storming the land of cones, they wouldn't have to take a boat to the land of snow, where a trusted ally of theirs would bring them to the land of earth, Koyuki's grandmother's location. Sandayu's hand gripped the edge of the table. You think I don't know that? Sandayu said in a rough tone. I do okay, I do know that. Beauty swore service to the Kazuhana family, and I can't just let one of their members. We're going. Looking over Reishi saw that it was Koyuki who was speaking. I refuse to let my grandma spend the rest of her life thinking that her granddaughter knew about her and didn't at least try to come and see her. But Koyuki. Reishi said. Koyuki looked at him and smiled. The girl, though only 12, despite everything she'd been through, smiled at him determinedly. I will find my grandmother and I won't let anything stop me. End flashback. Reishi supposed he had too much faith. After all, Sandayu and the others were dead, they didn't have to worry about her anymore. It was him, the only person left. Reishi knew that their situation was grim. There was no village for miles. And there wouldn't be a convenient rock formation every time they needed one. Though Reishi did have an art affinity, he had no one to teach him. Sighing, Reishi looked at Koyuki's sleeping form and for the first time he regretted joining her. It was true she and her company had saved him from bandits, yes, but what difference would it make if he was going to die in an arguably worse manner? At least the bandits would have given him a quick death. Now he would die in the snow, cold, hungry and suffering. The rations would only last so long and they would have to move to escape from men anyway. Reishi knew the situation was hopeless. Leaving his thoughts, Reishi looked over to see a now awake Koyuki looking at him. His face must have shown that their situation was grim. For a while they sat in silence, the only sound being the snowstorm only a couple feet away. I have an idea. He looked at her. What is it? Before I tell you it, you need to promise me something. Reishi narrowed his eyes. Once you leave, you must never go into the land of snow for any reason whatsoever. Reishi didn't know why she said that, but her eyes left no room for argument, so somewhat confused Reishi agreed. Koyuki's face visibly relaxed, and she smiled. Good, now here is my plan. Comma. The boat was of a good build, able to take multiple trips to Earth and snow, but Reishi had promised not to go back, and it was a promise he didn't know if he could keep. Koyuki's, or Nareishi's necklace hung by a chain on his neck. He absent-mindedly touched it, though it held no real physical weight, the psychological weight was prevalent. The promise he made weighed heavily on his mind, feelings swirled around in his head, the most prominent of them being rage and determination. Reishi knew if he wanted to save Koyuki he would need to be stronger. As far as he knew he had an affinity for earth and fire release. He had only recently come into his earth release through a scroll from Koyuki. It was something he was supposed to receive on his 8th birthday. The jutsu was earth-style. Headhunter jutsu. It allowed the youths to travel underground using their chakra to convert the dirt into quicksand. Reishi had used that technique to escape from the second wave of men. It was one of only a few jutsu he knew, and the silver-haired boy knew that he had to get stronger. He would save Koyuki and bring peace to the land of snow. Letting a small smile run across his face, Reishi laid back on the boat, looking up at the sky that was quickly forming from gray to blue, and went to sleep. Kusho stared at the corpse of his parents, the rain coming in from the destroyed roof drenching his clothes. In all honesty, Kusho never liked his parents. They never truly cared about him, only about what his bloodline could do. Kusho knew he had a bloodline, but he never knew what it was. His parents had refused to tell him. Apparently it was a special trait of their clan, being able to sense that someone had a bloodline, something about static electricity. But when his parents found that he couldn't awaken his bloodline, they quickly lost interest. That said, he still felt something for their deaths, not sadness or joy, but something. What was the word? Oh yes, his parents called it pity. He felt pity for them. His parents never liked to talk about their lives before he was born, but he could see shame and regret in their lives, and instead of trying to overcome it on their own, they instead forced it onto their only son. A pity indeed. There was nothing in the house anymore, it had all been stolen. Now since Kimimaro had gone missing and his parents were dead, there was really nothing left for him here. So he left. Left his memories, his parents, and his home. They would be useless to him now. He had heard that the third Mizukage had started a bloodline purge, so his first and only objective was to get out of the land of water as soon as he could. Well, this took a while to do. I actually had this done a while ago, but I needed to rewrite a part with Naruto and Senji. I'll let you goose which part it was, but anyway, a bit of a hint for the next chapter. It probably won't focus on Naruto at all. In fact, out of the 4 people I've included in this chapter, it'll most likely only focus on Kusho since he was the least looked upon. But don't take what I just said in a different way than I intend. If I can promise anything about the next chapter, then it will be the appearance of the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, and a certain swordsman who will play a big role in the story will be appearing. If you couldn't tell, I have big plans for this story. Don't really know what story I'll be posting to next. I left you gouts on a bit of a cliffhanger for the tailless fox, but anyways, thank you for reading. See ya.